So I want to take a look at the process of sorting a table of data in Excel and actually going so far as to create a frequency distribution and a histogram with that data all using Excel. So this is a set of data that I've taken from just one of the homework problems that you're going to encounter. And I want to do a couple of things to it. The first thing I want to do is get it out of this format that it's in. Right now it's in 5 separate columns. I want it to just be one long column. That's going to make it a lot easier to sort the data. There are some kind of tricky ways to do this, but the easiest way to do this is to simply take your mouse, highlight one column at a time, and if you hover your mouse right over the edge, it'll show all those little arrows, and that allows you to move this column wherever you want. So while you're inside of it, it shows that plus symbol, but right when you move to the edge, it changes to arrows. So if I just click and drag this thing, I can now stack it right underneath the other one. And I'm going to do the same thing with the rest of them. So I've got that one. I'm going to move that, just drag it down below. Do the same thing with this one. Just drag it down to the bottom. This is going to be the most efficient way to do this for data sets of the size that we're dealing with, at least. Just move it all the way to the bottom. And you can see it went from being 5 columns to now just one really long column with all, however many, 65 some pieces of data in there. So there's our big long list. If I want to sort this data, which is going to be a useful tool if we are trying to do our frequency distributions to count how many values in this list fall between a certain range, all we need to do is come over here to we have a couple options. I can go to this data one, or even on the home page, I guess it shows up. I see it over here. So there's sort and filter over here, or even easier, if we go to data at the top, we have sort and filter with a couple of options. And if I just highlight this and pick one of those, let me say I want to do this one. From A to Z, if I click the A to Z, it will go from smallest to largest. And you can see over here the column is now sorted from smallest to largest. We have a couple of choices. I could drag this up, make sure that it starts in the actual first row here instead of the second row. I could go through this and just count. If I'm looking for all the values between 0 and 1.49, I could just check and see. We start here in the first row, and the last one that's 1.49 or less is down here in row 28, so I know there must be 28 values in that range. And I could do the same thing to just kind of go from the next value, 1.5, up to, I think, 2.99. I could go through here, and 2.99, it looks like it's those data, so from 29 to 46. And I could use subtraction or just count these manually to figure out how many values fall in that range. Or I can have Excel create the frequency distribution and table for me. If I want to do that, what I will have to do is I will have to type in the values of sort of the upper class limits of each of the classes that I want to use. And you'll notice in this case, the biggest number is down here at 6.63. So let's just say I wanted to do, I think in this homework problem it asks me to do all the numbers between 0 and 1.49. So I'm going to type that just in any other column. It doesn't matter. I could do it in B or C or D, wherever. And it doesn't have to be at the top. I can do it down here. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do that, hit enter, go down to the next one, and then 2.99 is the next number. And I can manually type in all of these, but another nice feature is if I just highlight these two and then drag from the corner. So if I go down to the corner of this box that I've highlighted with just those two numbers in it, it turns into a plus symbol, and I can drag this and it'll automatically generate in the same increments the list. So it'll basically count in increments of 1.5 all the way down. And these are all the upper class limits. So this is going to represent all the ones from 0 to 1.49. This will be all the ones from 1.5 up to 2.99. So I just need all the upper class limits here. Once I've got that, I'm going to use this data analysis option under the data. If you just installed Excel, you may not have this activated yet. So let me show you where you can install this data analysis package. You go to File, go down all the way to the bottom where it says Options. Make sure I remember where this is. Near the bottom of this list on the left, it says Add-ins. And if I click on that, it has a big, long, scary looking list. I can narrow that down just right here at the bottom where it says Manage. It says Excel add-ins. That's what I want. If I just click Go, it's going to narrow this down. I have this box checked. If you don't have it yet, it'll all look empty like this. So just check that box, hit OK, and it'll add this analysis tool pack. That's what is going to give me this option over here. So I'm going to add that. Click OK, and now when you go to this data option, you should have under analysis, this analysis group, it should say data analysis. And if I click on that, it'll give me a bunch of things we can do. And one of them is create a histogram right here. So I want to create a histogram. I'm going to say OK, and it'll ask me what are the inputs that I want to use. If I just click right here, I can just go over to my graph or my table and just highlight all the values that I want. So I want all of these values to be the values that we're using. If I finish highlighting them, it automatically writes in those values, the indexes. So it was column A from A1 to A65. So A1 to A65. And then it asks which bins do I want to use. And the bins I want to use are these values up here. These are the upper bounds of all of the bins. So if I just click where it says bin range and then highlight this list, it'll automatically populate that as well. Looking at the picture down here, we can do a Pareto graph if we wanted it to be sorted. I don't want to do that. We can do cumulative percentage, chart output. I don't even know what that means. Maybe that's the actual graph. Let's try clicking on that. I do want the chart output. And click OK. And see what happens. Perfect. So it pops it up in a new sheet. Notice down here this thing that says sheet 1, it wasn't there before. If I click on this other one, it takes us back to the original data set. This is what I was dealing with, and sheet 1 is now where all of the new information is. There's a picture of the histogram. It includes this extra thing that says more. If there's anything above 1 or 7.49, that would get thrown into this grouping, but I don't care about that one. I'm just going to delete it. We don't need that. I can, if I want to delete this part over here on the picture, it's just making things ugly. I don't need that part. Here is my histogram, and here is the frequency distribution. Here are the numbers, the actual frequencies. So it says just 1.49, but this represents all the numbers between 0 and 1.49. It turns out there were 28 of them in this big long list, which is exactly what we saw when we actually sorted them, right? We said all of the numbers from here, starting in row 1 down to here in row 28, those are all the numbers less than or equal to 1.49, and clearly there are 28 of them. So our frequency distribution table did the right thing here, and we've got everything we need. So that's a quick way to do some of these homework problems that ask for these frequency distributions. You're also welcome to do them by hand, but this is a little bit faster, and it'll keep you from making mistakes along the way. It'll also give you a nice looking picture, much better than the ones I've been drawing by hand in my videos. So good luck.